Woke up and I'm laying on the money, pal. Got your bitch, she jaded. Counting money now. Woke up and I'm laying on the money, pal. Making money now. Counting money now. Man, I'm really.
Hey everyone, we are First Seed Sports, and this is our very first ever mock draft, ever media that we're putting out. And we are happy to have you here and a part of it. This is going to be a 12-team PPR mock draft. So without further ado, Kyle, you have the first pick.
Confirmed to begin the draft. Oh,
There we go. Saquon and then McCaffrey.
Interesting to see Barkley go first there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, tempted to go with the obvious number 3, but I'm going to have fun with it. Get a little Kamara in here.
Interesting.
Okay.
So after that,
Mike,
we
that's
saw
you?
Zeke go. Sorry, go ahead.
All right. With 1.8, especially in a PPR league, a lot of backs are going early here. So I would definitely look to get my running back before the turnaround. So between Joe Mixon and Kenyon Drake, I'm going to go ahead and take Kenyon Drake with the 8th.
All right, so sitting at the turn, I kind of have a lot of options here. A couple of those options that I prefer went off the board, though. Mike, you took Drake, and then Mixon and Hill went back to back. Those are two guys that I'm pretty high on, also. But as I'm sitting here, I see two running backs that I really, really like, back to back in the ADP. It looks like. And that's Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders. I think that both of them provide a lot of a lot of PPR upside, and they're going to see a lot of passes. So I think that those are going to be my two picks here, just because of the PPR upside that I get from those guys. I also tend to go with them over an Eckler because I think that they're in more stable quarterback situations. So that's where I'm leaning for Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders.
There goes Mahomes. Okay.
First QB.
Yep. So now at the turnaround, you saw Devontae and Julio make it to the second round. Kind of like what Zach said, those running backs like Kenyon Drake, Mixon, Chubb, Jacobs, Sanders, I kind of have them all in the same tier. So right there is basically who you would prefer. So I went with my guy Drake. On the turnaround now, I'm not as high on DeAndre Hopkins as usual, so I'm going to bypass Hopkins, and I think I'm going to snag my RB2 here, and I'm going to go with my guy, Aaron Jones.
Respect.
Oh, there goes Lamar.
I just want to bring it up real quick. Sorry, Kyle, I'm cutting into your time a little bit, but I see Kenny Golladay here on the draft board, and he actually has a COVID designation next to his name. So that's going to be an interesting thing to have to watch. It says 2 hours ago via RotoWire, he was placed on the reserve COVID-19 list. So, I mean, it's not to the point where it's worrying me yet because we have such a long time until draft day and until the season starts. So he should be able to get over whatever he's dealing with and be good to go with plenty of time. And a veteran like him, he should be, no issues whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm sitting here. I got another pick coming around the turn, and I see both of you went running back. I am tempted to go a different strategy. Obviously, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is tempting with the new news that Damian Williams is sitting out for COVID reasons. He's tempting. I think I'm going to stay off of him for a bit. Hopkins, what is he? Hopkins is my wide receiver 4 projections. I could take him, or I'm looking at Kittle as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to snag Hopkins there.
Okay, nice.
There goes Clyde, Todd, Kittle, and
Kyle,
Edwards.
with what you mentioned about Clyde Edwards-Helaire also, we have to kind of wait and see with him. The news is so fresh. We
It's
don't
true.
know whether we're going to see the Chiefs sign another running back. We don't know how he's going to do in camp. We kind of have to wait and see. Devontae Freeman still sits out there, and it's just been the news just came out actually that they're looking to find him a team ASAP. So the pieces fit. He's a receiving back, and that's what Mahomes is looking for. So we'll have to see there.
Right.
So I'm sitting here, third pick. As much as I love to get some Kenny Galladay, him getting COVID, or at least getting, I don't know if they haven't disclosed whether he's tested positive or somebody he's with in the house has tested positive. I don't think they ever will or can disclose that.
Right.
Kind of makes me want to stay away from him. Besides him, I'd be probably scooting down the rankings sheet and looking at Allen Robinson. He's my next ranked receiver. Or I would be looking to get Fournette. He had a solid year last season. The fact that he's going in the third round just because they signed Chris Thompson does not scare me.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm gonna snag wide receiver 2, Allen Robinson.
Nice. Yeah, and Fournette's situation too, just because he's shown that he's not happy and they don't intend on re-signing him is what it's looking like right now.
He's kind of fallen out of favor with the Jaguars. That kind of makes you think twice about it.
Yeah.
So you never know.
He could play his heart out.
So
could play his heart out to get that big contract.
Round 3, I have 2 running backs right away. So now I'm definitely going to look receiver in PPR. You don't want to wait on that. So if I'm going down my rankings here, my next wide receiver that I would look for here is probably like Kyle mentioned, Kenny Galladay. I would look for around this area, but on the board, I'm looking at
you too.
Healthy Ben Roethlisberger really is a tempting pick. And then I also really love DJ Moore this year. But I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with Juju Smith, a healthy Ben Roethlisberger. He should have a 1,000-yard season and a couple TDs to go with that.
All right, sweet. I was really hoping that DJ Moore was going to make it to me. Being the resident Panthers fan out of the three of us, I think he's going to be in stock for a lot of targets this year. He's kind of that. When they drafted him, they said they wanted him to be the next Steve Smith, and he's kind of lived up to that name. He's gritty, he catches everything, and Teddy Bridgewater isn't the type to go deep all the time, so he's probably going to see an uptick in targets, which in a PPR league I love. So I'm going to lean DJ Moore here. And then with my next pick, I'm kind of looking up and down the board. It's tempting for me to go with a third running back, actually. Being able to plug a third running back into your flex and not worry about it every single week is such a luxury. So often you can see receivers on the waiver wire and just kind of pick one of those guys up and throw them in. But it's rare to find that running back. But I don't know if I'm sold on the guys who are here. I see David Johnson still here. Melvin Gordon still here. I think his situation actually downgraded Melvin Gordon's did. I think he went to a less favorable spot than he was in. And I also see the rookie Jonathan Taylor, Mark Ingram, and David Montgomery here. And to be quite honest with you guys, I'm not super intrigued with any of them. The two that I am intrigued with, though, are the two going to be sophomore wide receivers. I see A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf here. And I'm pretty tempted to take a pick on one of them. I know A.J. Brown has kind of been the darling of the fantasy industry recently, but I tend to lean the other way. I think DK Metcalf is going to have an insane season. Everything I've seen about him has been great. Russell Wilson has said he wants to go down the field more. He wants to throw the ball. He said he wants to effectively be like Patrick Mahomes. And if he is, who's going to benefit from that? DK Metcalf. So that's where I'm leaning. I'm going to go DK Metcalf. Just one last thing real quick. Sorry. I'm yapping away here. But I also, Robert Woods was on the board there. And I actually have him ranked as my wide receiver 4. I am super high on Robert Woods. I think that man is going to see a ton of targets. But I also think that DK Metcalf is going to have higher touchdown potential. So that's why I'm leaning towards DK Metcalf there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that one. I really, out of the wide receivers left on the board here, I'm seeing Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is mainly his best production comes in the slot, and when he's not being shadowed by number ones. And with CeeDee Lamb on the team this year, he's definitely going to play a little bit more outside, which forces him inside, which should open things up. But I'm not as high on Amari Cooper as I am on my main man, A.J. Brown. So like Zach said, I really loved Metcalf and A.J. Brown there. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with A.J. Brown, get my second wide receiver.
You just got such a high ceiling with A.J. Brown. You know, you don't exactly know where the floor is because he could be, you know, it could be risky with Ryan Tannehill. But if he is as good as we saw last year, he's going to be absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
So I see I got sniped with Mark Andrews going right before me. I have him as my actual tight end 2, both in projections and rankings. I was hoping he'd make it, but, you know, life gets in the way. So I'm sitting here with just one running back and 2 receivers. And as much as I would love to snag Woods, because I probably love him just as much as you guys, I have him as my wide receiver 10. I think a running back would be in my best interest, and I'm going to go with good old Kareem Hunt. I think him and Chubb could be a dynamic backfield.
You know, guys, I saw some news today that Jarvis Landry might not be ready to start the season. And that kind of begs the question, is Kareem Hunt going to be the Browns' wide receiver 2? You know, is he that dynamic that they can't take him off the field? If he is, that's points galore.
I have been seeing they've been working him a little bit more in the slot too, so that could be interesting to monitor as camp goes on and stuff.
All right, so I am up again. Just update these ranks.
There goes Zach Ertz as well there.
Yeah. So I'm here with another tough decision because there are two receivers that I love so much this season. Diggs and Keenan Allen. I see Diggs moving to Buffalo for some reason flourishing, having a better, if not the same season he had in Minnesota, and his seasons in Minnesota were fantastic. With Keenan Allen, he's the only guy there. You can argue for Hunter Henry stealing more targets or Eckler being more involved in the passing game since he's the sole back, really. But I don't see that happening. I see Keenan Allen being Keenan Allen. But I'm not sure if I want to go receiver now. I'm looking. No,
What's your time, Kyle? You're down at 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
You can always pause it if we need.
You know, I'm going Keenan.
Okay. You know, Anthony Lynn also just said today that they are planning to roll with Tyrod as their day 1 starter because he felt that Justin Herbert didn't have the reps that he needed. So having a veteran thrown into Keenan Allen's got to make you feel a little bit more comfortable too.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty here. So now I'm pretty even in the 5th round. 2 running backs, 2 receivers. And here comes the 3rd quarterback on the board. And I see Kyler Murray as the next one to go. I do have Kyler in my top 10 this year, but I'm usually a guy that loves to wait on his quarterbacks. I don't have Kyler this high in ADP, but if this is his spot, I think I'm going to pass for now. One wide receiver I'm looking at that I really love is Terry McLaurin. I have him as my wide receiver 9 this year, so 5th round, I think that's a no-brainer for me. I'm going to lock it in.
All right. Well, I got to see a really long run of wide receivers here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them went in this round. I don't think I'm going to add to that, just because the guys that I'm looking at here, Cortland Sutton kind of intrigues me a little bit, to be honest with you. But really, who is catching my eye here? Devontae Parker is here as well. But really, the guys that are catching my eye right now are Ronald Jones and Darren Waller. I love Darren Waller. I actually have him as my tight end 3. I think that he has the potential to be a production monster this year. So I think that's where I'm leaning, that I'm going to take Darren Waller here. And because I am on the turn, I have another pick. Just taking a brief look at the running backs, they get pretty hairy from here out. I'm seeing Cam Akers. I don't have a lot of faith in that situation in LA, with McVay saying that you want to use a 4-headed monster. So between Henderson, Malcolm Brown, Akers, and I don't even know who the fourth possible running back could be there. But yeah, if there's a will, Sean McVay will find a way. So I'm looking at DeAndre Swift. Don't love the competition with Kerryon Johnson. I keep coming back to Ronald Jones. I think that if Tom Brady has shown us one thing, he loves to dump down to his running back, and this is going to be an offense that puts up points. They have, for sure, probably the best offensive roster in the league, and I think as long as he can keep his pass protection up, he's going to have a hard time coming off the field, because I think that he is the most explosive and dynamic back in that backfield. Keyshawn Vaughn does worry me a little bit, just because they spent, I believe, a 3rd-round pick on him, which is fairly high value, but I think that with the shortened offseason, without OTAs and all of that good stuff, I think that Ronald Jones should have a pretty good hold on the starting role. So I'm going to lean Ronald Jones here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. Looking at the backs left, Ronald Jones probably has the most potential to just get the most snaps out of any of the running backs I'm seeing. I really love Darius Geis, but you never know with him. He's coming off, I believe, the MCL tear from last year. So it's a little bit scary, that situation. They still have him. They have Adrian Peterson. And that situation is a little bit scary to me. I'm sitting with 2 running backs and 3 receivers here, so I'm going to look running back again. There's no quarterbacks that I want to jump on now. I still love a few, and I have a few in the second tier, same as Kyler Murray. So the way this draft is going, I think I could wait on quarterbacks a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my flex/backup running back here. And the 3 guys that I'm really looking at are the ones in the next ADP: Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift, and then James White. Cam Akers has an interesting situation there, and so does DeAndre Swift. But this year I have Detroit's offense finishing top 7 in the league, I believe. And I think DeAndre Swift is going to be heavily involved in the passing game as well, especially having Stafford have a great year this year. So I'm going to go ahead and take DeAndre Swift.
Good pick. That would have been mine if he made it.
Yeah,
See
Detroit
2 more.
for a season this year.
You see 2 more quarterbacks go off the board there. That's a little interesting. I think that I can speak safely for the 3 of us and say that we're all kind of late round quarterback guys. I think that we see a lot of value in those later rounds, but sometimes you never know. Had Kyler fallen another round or 2, the value is too good to pass. So I think that you kind of have to be fluid with your picks, and you can't lock yourself into one strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, you say we're late round quarterback guys, but I was actually looking at Russell Wilson this round if he had fallen, and I got sniped again. Beyond that, I would love to get another running back, and kind of looking at these guys, there's nobody I could confidently go into the season starting other than Darius Geis. I think he's healthy. He's almost a year removed from an ACL injury. What was that, like his 3rd ACL? But regardless, I am confident that he can come back and be healthy and play. I don't see Adrian Peterson being a true threat to him on the Washington football team. Besides that, I'm looking at also Deshaun Watson. I think he could ball out. I had him as an MVP pick last season before, obviously, Lamar balled out. And I could see it happening again this season without Hopkins. But I am going to go Geis.
Yes.
Did Breeze cross your mind at all there?
No.
No.
Breeze is, what do I have him at? My quarterback 17. I'm not in love with Breeze. I haven't been for the past couple of years, and he's been proving me wrong. But I can't get myself onto that bandwagon for some reason.
I've been in the same camp. I've been waiting for that inevitable downfall that we kind of saw a couple years ago with Brady, where that fantasy production comes down, and it just happens with those guys when they get up there in age.
That and you get a full healthy Alvin Kamara for a full season, paired with Latavius Murray. You have a full backfield at full strength. I don't know. At some point, they're going to fully rely on running at some point, but hard to tell when. Right now, I would honestly love to get a receiver. I'm eyeing Michael Gallup or, actually, Julian Edelman is really tempting. His only threat in New England is James White or N'Keal Harry, who I also think could be great this season. But you add Julian Edelman, Cam Newton, I think there could be an interesting connection there, and I will take that. Solid wide receiver 4.
Yeah, and I just to speak on what you guys are saying, I kind of feel the same with Breeze. I don't think he has many years left. Possibly this could be his last season, so I think they're going to preserve him as much as possible and see if they can get him to a Super Bowl. But so now I'm looking at 3 running backs and 3 wide receivers. My quarterback tiers. Strictly based off of ADP. My second tier is completely gone. I had Murray, Prescott, Wilson, and Watson all in the same tier. Brady snuck in there too. I had him in my tier 3. And I still have guys in my tier 3 that look like they're a little bit lower in ADP on Sleeper's rankings here. So it looks like, based off of this draft, that I could go ahead and wait on my third tier quarterback. So then at 3-3 PPR league, I'm going to look for my 4th receiver here. And basically the 2 names that stick out the most are Jarvis and Tyler Boyd. They both have very interesting situations. I believe Kyle said he pointed out that Landry might not be ready for camp. So that's a situation to definitely monitor. So I think just based off of the situation that they're in and an article I read today from yours truly, Zach Cole, I'm going to go ahead and get my Cincinnati Bengals. I think that team is due for a big year offensively, so I'm going to lock in Tyler Boyd.
Man, I talked you into my next pick. I didn't want to do that. That's all right. So that was obviously where I was going to look. Tyler Boyd's locked and loaded PPR guy. He's going to get the receptions, you can pencil him in for basically 70 receptions guaranteed. And that was really who I was looking at next here. Aside from that, one quick thing to mention, I do see Keyshawn Vaughn coming up on the draft board. And again, I just want to mention that he has also been placed on the COVID-19 reserve list. Not trying to polish my Ronald Jones pick a little more, but that's the kind of thing that you got to keep up on a little bit to just stay in the loop, so to speak.
Sorry, did you notice Damian Williams went right after you last round?
I did see that. That's another thing. Obviously in mock drafts, it's not always going to be perfect with the software, and using computers and such, but we try the best we can. So, all right. So I'm looking at my team here. I have 3 running backs, 2 receivers, and my tight end. Effectively, aside from my quarterback, I have my roster filled out. So I'm just kind of looking at depth now. So straight off the bat, I see Jordan Howard, who I am pretty high on this season. I think that he's kind of old faithful. He's always going to give you what you expect of him, and that is a solid floor. You can basically bank on him for 8 points a week. It's not going to be pretty, it's not going to be sexy, but he's going to get you those points. So I think I'm going to take Jordan Howard here as my fourth running back. It's the type of deal where if I need to plug him and play him, I can. I have that luxury, and he's my fourth running back, so I don't ever need to play him. So I am now looking at receiver, and it is a desolate wasteland out there. Deebo Samuel would have been probably a very, very easy pick for me to make in this range, but he probably would have gone a little bit earlier without the injury. I think that he is dynamic in multiple facets of the game, and I think he can score rushing touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, and he just kind of has a high ceiling, like we mentioned before. But aside from that, I'm looking at the next available and the ADP. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and reach a little bit here. Looking at my ranks, I see that I have my 27th ranked receiver available on the board, and he is not going in ADP until pick 113. So we definitely aren't there yet, but I think that I'm already going to go ahead and look and take him. And that is actually Henry Ruggs the third. I think that he presents the upside that a Tyreek Hill presents for the Chiefs offense with the Raiders. So I'm hoping that he can be sort of a Tyreek Hill light and stretch the field, and hopefully bang off a couple of those super long touchdowns that put up massive weeks. So that's where I'm leaning.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now I'm looking at 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers here. So I have my starting lineup and my flex filled for my main positions. What I like to do, I usually wait on quarterbacks and tight ends as long as I can, just to get my guys that I could shuffle in throughout the year, especially with COVID going on. I think it's definitely important to have as much depth as possible. But what I did just see is Hayden Hurst went right before me, and I have Hayden Hurst outside of my top 10 tight ends this year. And the only guy that I have left that is in my top 10, actually, correction, I have 3 guys left, but one of them sits in my tight end number 7, and it's Hunter Henry. And I think that Tyrod is going to need someone to lean on this year, and I think he's going to be a great fit for that offense. So I'm going to go ahead and take Hunter Henry there.
All right. What am I looking to do with my team? I feeling pretty good with the depth that I have at both running back and receiver. I was also going to go tight end with that pick if Hunter Henry made it to me. Not feeling great about the other guys sitting there right now, at least. I was also hoping, it's a long shot, hoping Matt Ryan made it to me. Those were Henry and Matt Ryan were the 2 guys I was basically hoping for. But right now, I might as well pile in for some depth. And I will add old Mike's favorite receiver, Marvin Jones. I think Stafford and the Lions are going to be super productive on offense. And I don't see why not get as many pieces of that offense, especially from the receiving end, as you can.
Right.
I was also hoping Cohen would make it back, but things happen. And I might do a slight reach here. It's not much of a reach. He's the third running back left. I'm going to go with Latavius Murray. I feel with having Kamara, he's probably the best handcuff that's not a handcuff and is actually used in all facets of the game, even when Kamara is fully healthy.
Right, and now I'm starting to see the trend too. not even based off my personal ADP, but basically when you're doing any draft, you definitely want to look at what's going on. And I'm seeing that, especially last round, right after your perfect Marvin Jones pick, Madison went, and then it got followed up by you taking Latavius. I see Matt Breida, Philip Lindsay going. So now I think if that is the wave that this draft is going in the 9th round, I'm going to look to get a handcuff here. So now I have Kenyon Drake, Aaron Jones, and DeAndre Swift. And the next running back up on my rankings is Kerryon Johnson, which is very tempting. But in this case, my number one pick, Kenyon Drake, is definitely my most valuable asset. And I think it's very important to get your guys handcuffed, especially if you're going to take a running back in the first round. So I'm going to go ahead and take Chase Edmonds here.
All right. This is tricky. I'm not seeing anything that's really standing out to me overall. I like CeeDee Lamb. I like Emmanuel Sanders, both pretty equally. I see CeeDee Lamb is projected at 166 points on the season. That feels a little high for my taste. I'm not sure that he's going to be that high. Looking at my own ranks, I see that I have Jerry Jeudy at wide receiver 36. Let's see where else I can look. I see that I have two very firm quarterbacks in my top 10. I have my quarterback 4 on the board, and I have my quarterback 7 on the board. So I think that is actually where I'm going to turn to here. I feel that it's late enough. We're in round 9 to start looking at quarterback. And I don't necessarily want to miss out on one of these couple guys that I really like. So for that reason, I'm going to look at Matt Stafford here, who I think is going to have a gigantic season. He was on pace for just absolutely astronomical numbers, 5,000-yard passing last year. And I think that's I don't think that's easy to ignore. And for my next pick, I'm looking and, I only have 3 receivers. So going back and reevaluating some of the receivers here, I see Lamb, Emmanuel Sanders, Jerry Jeudy, Mecole Hardman. And then I come to Old Faithful, Jamison Crowder. He is going to give you, kind of similar to how Jordan Howard's going to give you those solid 8 points a week, you can always count on Jamison Crowder for getting catches. Last season, he developed quite a rapport with Sam Darnold, and I think that's going to continue into this season. The Jets didn't add a ton of pieces. Denzel Mims was the only real receiving threat that they brought in, and so I like Jamison Crowder for still retaining some of that value from last season and putting up serviceable backup numbers. And as my receiver 4, I like that. I think that he can provide me with some security. Should Ruggs go down or should Metcalf go down, I'd be okay with playing him on any given week. So I'm going to go ahead and take Jamison Crowder here.
Okay. Yeah, and what you said about Stafford there, Stafford was going to be my next pick in the 10th round. I was definitely looking quarterback. I have my now 4 running backs, 1 being a handcuff, and 4 receivers. And I had my tight end, so I was looking Stafford there. I actually have Stafford as my QB number 6. So now that it looks like I have a few quarterbacks left in my second tier here, and one of them that really sparks my interest is Ben Roethlisberger. It's pretty similar to Drew Brees' situation. I think that this probably is Ben Roethlisberger's last year of football. And with that being said, I think that he's going to have a bomb year. He's got a lot of help in his backfield this year. He's got the weapons in James Washington, Deontay Johnson. So I'm going to go ahead and lock up Ben Roethlisberger in the 10th.
All right. Then we had Antonio Gibson, Wentz, Mecole Hardman, and CeeDee Lamb. Luckily, none of them were on my list. Because much like you, Mike, I was also looking at quarterback. And as much as I would have loved Stafford We all love him this year. We are all high on the Lions offense. Hell
We're
yeah.
all in Detroit.
I see. Let's see. One guy who I think could blow up this year, both good and bad. And I'm going to take him. Cam Newton. It's Cam Newton.
Nice pick.
In New England, I think he could ball out, but I guess we'll find out. I'm excited. For this next one, I got to fill this roster. I need a tight end. And I am looking no further than Jack Doyle. I have him as my, tight end 10. I think Phillip Rivers, he loves his tight ends. Why not get the guy who will be on the receiving end of some Phillip Rivers passes? So I will snag Jack Doyle.
Yeah, I'm very high on Jack Doyle too this year. We all know what Phillip Rivers does to tight ends, and Frank Reich is a great coach down there in Indianapolis. So definitely expecting a big season from him this year. Looking at the board here, we had Jalen Reagor and Jefferson go in the 11th round. I think out of all the rookie receivers this year, I'm very high on Reagor. For those of you that have been paying attention, Marquise Goodwin just opted out for the season, and I know Alshon Jeffrey is still dealing with some injuries as well. So Jalen Reagor and Ertz are going to eat up a majority of those targets in the beginning of the year at least. So now looking at my board, I have my one handcuff for my number one, and a name that is pretty much should have gone a few rounds ago, but is still here. I'm looking at Kerryon Johnson. I have DeAndre Swift, who I think is going to end up outproducing Johnson, but as you know, Kerryon Johnson went down with an ACL tear last year. Anything can really happen. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take Kerryon. Not that he's necessarily a handcuff, but that committee in Detroit, I am very high on their offense, as we've been saying. So I'm going to go ahead and take Kerryon there to have both of the running backs.
It feels like Kerryon Johnson has been there since like 2006. He's only going into his third season. It's kind of I feel like it's unfair almost to crumple him up and throw him in the garbage just because he had a couple letdown seasons. I think that there's still a lot of potential there. And Mike, by grabbing both of them, I think you really kind of locked up that backfield whichever way they go. Hopefully it won't be one of those infuriating seasons where they're both getting half and half touches and neither of them are super serviceable in fantasy. But I think that one way or another, Patricia will find his guy and kind of go with him. So I like the pick. Okay, so I am on the clock again, and I am on my final two picks of the draft. One thing I don't think we ever mentioned, we aren't drafting kickers. We aren't drafting defenses. For your own sake, if you're watching it, you've made it this far, you're intelligent because you probably haven't thought about picking a kicker or a defense yet. All right? Leave those till the very end of your draft. Don't take them early, okay? They're going to be the type of guys that you can pick up and drop week in and week out. Not even guys, but defenses, So don't worry about them. It's more important that you're getting the value in your drafts early and you are taking, receivers and running backs and quarterbacks and tight ends who are going to give you week-winning performances. So with that in mind, as Mike alluded to a little bit earlier with his Tyler Boyd pick, I wrote an article about Joe Burrow, and I talked myself into Joe Burrow being a top-end quarterback. And I think that he presents a value that is too good to pass up for me at this point. Looking at the other people on the board, Anthony Miller, Brandon Ayuk, Damian Harris, A.J. Dillon, don't really do a ton for me. So I think that in this situation, I'm actually going to take a second quarterback, which is sometimes kind of looks like I'm taking Brandon Ayuk. Kyle, can you run that back by chance?
Yeah, I can. You got it.
Perfect. All right. So I am actually going to take Joe Burrow here. And that gives me a second quarterback. Now, it's not exactly advisable to draft 2 quarterbacks. You can do it. You can't. It's really kind of a preference type deal. Personally, I don't see any issue with it. In the 3 of our league of record, people are kind of quarterback happy. I think at one point last season it was we were looking at Gardner Minshew and whoever the Bengals quarterback of the week was being the best options on the waiver wire, and it stinks. So that's kind of why I locked up Joe Burrow here, to just give me that security and know that I'm safe with my quarterbacks. So pivoting to my next pick here, I don't love handcuffing, or not handcuffing, but taking a second tight end either. But I am somewhat looking at doing it right now. I actually have my number 6 overall tight end still on the board. I think he's in line for a massive season this year, and that is actually Mike Gesicki. I think that building off of last season and what he was able to put together with Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think that he is going to be on track to just build off that and become one of the tight end talents in the league. So I am actually going to go with Mike Gesicki here. Some of the other guys I was looking at, just to brief mention, were John Brown and Michael Pittman Jr. John Brown was a borderline wide receiver 1 last season, and he provides that upside. But with Diggs coming in, that kind of made me have some pause. And Michael Pittman Jr. He's got that big body. He could be the number 1 receiver for Phillip Rivers in Indianapolis, but T.Y. Hilton's also going to be back. So, it was kind of iffy on both of them, and I'd rather lock up Mike Gesicki in that talent.
Yeah, I agree with you on the point you made about John Brown. I think Diggs being there definitely going to create a different opportunity for him. I know John Brown really does love his deep ball, so I could see Diggs working a little bit more underneath this year, and maybe it opens the field for him. So I definitely think that on the board that I'm looking at, I would take John Brown as my next receiver, but just the way that in the 12th round here we had 3 tight ends go, I'm looking at my team personally, and I have Hunter Henry right now. But Hunter Henry is also coming into the season with a brand new quarterback, and that's something that I'm not extremely scared of, but I'm not as confident in him, I would say. So based off my team, I have my 2 handcuffs for both of my backs, and the only one I don't is Aaron Jones here. So looking at the rankings, I see Jamal Williams is a little bit lower on the list, so it looks like I could wait for him. And because the tight ends went so early, I'm going to look tight end here, and I see 2 that are still in my top 10 rankings for this year. One guy that I've had for the past 3 years in every draft just to handcuff is Jonnu Smith, and that's who I'm going to go with here. I have him ranked as my tight end 9 for this year.
All right. So, a couple guys I've got on my list. I'm looking at either a receiver, a tight end, or a backup quarterback to pair with Cam. I'm looking at N'Keal Harry because I think he could dominate having a full healthy season. I think John Brown because he was fantastic last season. And I think the addition of Stephon Diggs could take some pressure off of him and open up more routes. Ryan Tannehill could be wonderful this season. I don't know why he's not being talked about as much as he could be and should be. He had a great stretch in the last half of the season. They went to the AFC Championship game. I think he could replicate it. Why not? And then tight end, I was looking at Blake Jarwin. I don't really need a tight end. I was looking at Jarwin and Hooper for these back couple picks. I think they could be stellar in their offenses. Hooper, I love him for some reason. And Jarwin, he's taken over. He dominated last year when Witten sat out for a couple halves. But Jarwin dominated. He played very well. But I don't need a tight end. So I'm between receiver and quarterback, but I'm going to snag Tannehill because I feel with Cam Newton, you can't be too safe. You never know if he's even going to start week 1 or week 2 or at all. Why not snag somebody who you think is going to be super reliable? And I think Tannehill could be just that.
Right.
Just to make 2 quick points, Kyle. Tannehill went behind. He's going behind players like Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield, Drew Lock. Okay, those are all unproven entities, and we've seen Ryan Tannehill be successful before. When he was comfortable in the Miami offense, he was approaching 3,500, 4,000 yards a season, pretty consistently. So I think now that he's settled into that Tennessee offense, he could really kind of flourish and blossom under that offensive system. And the other thing that I just wanted to mention quick is that back with my Mike Gesicki pick, I did not see Deshaun Jackson on the board. I don't know whether I was blind, what happened there, but I would generally lean towards actually taking Deshaun Jackson there over Mike Gesicki. Deshaun Jackson actually put up 35.4 PPR points in week 1 last year before getting hurt and re-aggravating an old injury. 35 points is kind of hard to argue with in round 12. I think that he's got immense upside, and he could really, as Mike mentioned, with Marquise Goodwin, the other burner on that team, opting out, I think that Deshaun Jackson could be open for a ton of opportunity. So just those 2 things that I just wanted to mention quick, at the end of the draft here. So you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, now if you guys could look at these other teams, besides your own, who do you think has the best team? Not even one of us, just any of the other draft spots.
To be honest, I'm looking at spot number 5 here, and I really love Adam Thielen. I think that's a great value pick in the 3rd. I don't
especially paired with Godwin.
Yeah. Right. And I don't think people are remembering what Adam Thielen did when he was back in 2018 when he was there. He had a phenomenal season, and even last year before the injury, he was on pace to have a pretty good season. So I really love that pick, and I love the backs that team has. Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, and Devin Singletary as a flex back. You can't go wrong with that. The only thing that I don't like is none of the handcuffs were taken, but obviously that's just the computer. But Dak Prescott in the 6th and Rob Gronkowski in the 7th. And then to top it off, he took Debo and Mecole with Justin Jefferson and Ayuk. So I really do love that receiving core and the running backs on that team. So other than not taking the handcuffs, I do really like the 5 spot there.
So to me, 2 teams kind of catch my eye. I really, really like slot 7 that started with Dalvin Cook and went Travis Kelce, Kenny Golladay, Amari Cooper, and even Cortland Sutton. I think that gives them incredible receiving options. It gives them a really good base at running back, and I think that it looks like they kind of went with the throw a pile at the wall and hope something sticks approach with the other running backs that they have there. Mostert, Marlon Mack, Phillip Lindsay, Antonio Gibson, and Duke Johnson. One of those is probably bound to be serviceable as an RB2. You're not going to like it week in and week out, but hopefully, the advantage that you get with taking Travis Kelce there outweighs the difference between one of those guys and a higher upside RB2. So I really like that team. And the other team that kind of catches my eye off the bat is Team 4. I like their running back depth early. They were able to get Mark Andrews, a positional difference maker. And then their receiving core really isn't that weak either, in my opinion. I think that DJ Chark is a beautiful pick at receiver there, especially in round 5. Michael Gallup, Will Fuller, and CeeDee Lamb. Again, one of those guys is going to provide you the upside to be a solid wide receiver 2 every week. Whether it's Will Fuller going off, Michael Gallup slept on. He's a pretty perennial 1,000-yard receiver, and he also got CeeDee Lamb there if the Dallas tide goes the other way and they choose to throw to Lamb more. So I like that team a lot. I think that's a nice team.
Mm-hmm.
I think Team 2, for some reason, I love that starting squad. Well, first of all, they were able to get McCaffrey at number 2, which shouldn't happen.
That's already a win.
Yeah. I have a love for Todd Gurley. I don't know. I had it last year. I have it again this year. But then those receivers, all 3 of them, they're all confident starters that if I were going into week 1, I'd be set and forget. I'd be totally happy. And then you add Zach Ertz and Deshaun Watson. You don't even have to worry. That depth had none of those running backs really pair with theirs. But N'Keal Harry and Christian Kirk at the back end, those are fantastic snags.
Right.
But if I'm looking at Team 10, I love that start. That Tyreek and Julio, just that duo is dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just looking at it here, I'm looking at all the running backs basically in that not tier 1 or tier 2, but maybe that tier 3 running backs. In that fourth round, you have Kareem Hunt, Mark Ingram, Jonathan Taylor, Melvin Gordon, and David Johnson there. Really, all those guys are in situations where they're in a committee, and then obviously Jonathan Taylor being the rookie there. The only thing with the rookie running backs this year is that there's no preseason games, and that is kind of concerning, considering they're not going to get reps in that real speed offense to get used to things. So I wouldn't fade rookie running backs this year, but I would be a little bit more cautious, and that's why I was extremely excited to get Swift in the 6th and then handcuff Carry On in the 11th. But that second or third tier running back group could definitely make or break people's seasons this year in the 4th, 5th rounds.
That's for sure. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Do you guys have any other comments, questions, concerns, anything that you want to voice?
I don't know, boys.
Doing well.
We had some great drafts here. Hopefully, my team will look something like this when the day comes. But
you can only hope.
I hope so.
Good.
I hope so. All right. So hopefully this is going to be the first of many of these that either we'll do before this season or before next season. We hope that everyone enjoys it and can learn something from this. We are actually going to be putting out an article to go along with this, kind of just highlighting some of our favorite picks, maybe where we got them, and maybe some picks that we had gripes about or wish we could do over. But I think that's a wrap for us. So without any other questions or comments from you guys, that's all we got for today, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Peace.